Gláucia, and I'm a psychologist, and I research in educational area. Claudia is not here, but she's psychologist, and Agda, master in education, and we work in Fundação Chagas Foundation, where we do educational research. Well, this study is part of research coordinated by INVALSI, by Cristina Stringer, in partnership with universities and research institutes of Uruguay, Ecuador, Spain, and Brazil. Okay? This study investigates how the concept of learning to learn is understood, used, and evaluated by teachers. We want to contribute to the design of initial and continuing teacher education policies. Well, this is some data from education in Brazil. Brazil is a big country, and we have a lot of realities, and in this research we focus on teachers who teach in kindergarten and with students with 5 years old, or not 5 years old in kindergarten, and in basic education with students 10 and 50 years old. And this data is for you see how big is the education in Brazil, and our study is very small. Is qualitative research. In Brazil, we had national curriculum parameters, but they were not mandatory, and we have some specific curricula for state and municipal education systems. Curricula were often driven by the skill metrics of learning assessment system. We have a lot of large-scale assessment. We have federal systems, state systems, and systems of municipalities. The students are evaluated many times by year. It's a problem. And teachers don't have a real definition of competences and skills. They have difficult to define this competence, and although these terms appear in official documents, but don't have a definition, effective definition, and this discussion remains more restricted with the university. In 2018, the government had the Common National Curriculum Base, and in this document there are mentions lifelong learning, but does not specify how to develop this competence. They highlights skills like knowledge, scientific, critical and creative thinking, cultural repertoire, communication, digital culture, work and life project, argument, self-awareness and self-care, empathy and cooperation, responsibility and citizenship. But the learning to learn is only a reference in this document, and we think it's very interesting to research about this among teachers. In Brazil, there are problematic aspects in understanding the concept of competence. Academics criticize the adoption of competence because they think it's a neoliberal concept that seeks to weaken the working class by depriving them of their rights to learn a socially constructed school content. It's a great discussion about this, and the concept of competence is considered essential by the government to prepare students and teachers for actual world. And there are different understandings of the concept. There is a dichotomy between content and form with the little integrative view, because we think that some content define the form of the development of competence, like this research showed here. If you learn mathematics, you need to develop the mathematics language, and this defines the form of this competence. But for most teachers, competence is the same of content domain, and others no. We don't need the content, only the competence, the form. I think it's not a new discussion, but it's actually in Brazil. This research has the objective to verify to teachers' reports their view on the concept of learning to learn. We think to use only the data from 12 teachers. They were part of the pilot study, but because we use a specific methodology, we need to put more data in the analysis. Then we use all the teachers, the response of teachers we had. 32 teachers from public and private schools working into different municipalities in San Paulo state. But the most of them were from São Paulo. And that is about the data collection and the production of the instruments. We have, we did interviews. The interviews were prepared by INVALSI. And this instrument had direct and indirect questions which were transcribed to perform the contents analysis of the answers to the questions that addresses students' learning assessment process. This procedure was the same in the other countries, and here we will show the Brazilian results. We use a software named Alcest. It does it quantifies a test to extract the most significant textual structures. We read the tests to identify categories into which answers could for classified. Then we will show some categories, some class we could find. About the teacher profile, in the pilot phase 12 teachers and the final phase 20, and the most of them were female. It's very common in Brazil. The teachers are female in most cases. And we researched two kinds of schools, public schools and private schools, but public schools are the more numbers. And then only 2 teachers were from Santo André, is a city near San Paolo, and 30 were from São Paulo. São Paulo is the biggest city in Brazil, and it's a word because you have some areas with more rich, others more poor, and it's there is not a convergence. Then we, as I said, the 3 kinds of students of 15 years old, 10 years old, 5 years old, and because in the second phase we choose to interview only public schools and teachers of public schools and of highest school. Yes. Ok. Ok. Então, we can see for students 10 years old, there are more male teachers, but in the high school, female are most frequent. This is a form to show the classification of these 12 structures, and we can choose 4 classes. Each class has a minimum number of test units of 15 test units, and 18% of the test units were classified. Class 1 is a big class, and were the teachers who think learning to learn is conceived as a competence that is formed through the application of content knowledge involving social and relational skills with the purpose of elaboration a product, a play, a business plan, a seminar, etc. Learn to learn involves motivation, participation, collaboration, and robust planning by teachers. It is conceived as a competence that develops in school. This is an example about the class 1. The class 2 is a small class where teachers think learn to learn is a competence that depends on the student's development of self-esteem, encouragement, confidence, empowerment, so that he believes he can learn despite of the difficulties, so that he likes to learn. The emotional component is at the heart of this conception. This is an example of this class. The class 3, learning to learn is a competence that depends on the acquisition of knowledge produced by humanity, which qualify the student's relationship with the world. It's taught in the school and requires mastery of basic skills such as reading, writing, and operating with mathematical algorithms. This view emphasizes mastery of school content. This is the examples, some examples of texts. And the last class, class 4, learn to learn is to develop a research competence. Curiosity, interest, questions, presentation of ideas about problems, debate with the others, researching various sources, making relationships with the other situations and contexts. To facilitate the development of this competence, students need to identify their learning styles and develop metacognitive strategies. This view is very much tied to cognitive theories of learning. And this is some examples of the tests of this class. And we are analyzing the data because our research are in course, but About this data, we can say the concept of learning to learn is more closely linked to learn to do and learn to know, because it's a complex concept. It requires to be widely discussed and good practices to be disseminated. We believe this study should be expanded to understand students and their families' conceptions of learning to learn. We could see the teachers of students 5 years old had more difficult to conceptualize this competence, and the male teachers this competence more linked to the content, not about the competence. Then it's our data. I'm sorry about my English, but